So about 2 weeks ago, I made a video where I talked about the NPC update that'll be coming sometime in the future to Project Zomboid, and that video did extremely well, which tells me that a lot of people are curious and interested about NPCs being added into Zomboid. So I decided today I was going to talk about 10 features that NPCs should have whenever they do get added. But first, let me tell you 10 things that you should do. Subscribe. 10 times. No, I'm joking, you don't need to do it 10 times, but if you could do it once, that would be amazing, because we are insanely close to 20k subscribers, and by the time you're watching this, we may already be at 20k, but go ahead and subscribe anyways to be part of our journey to 25k. But anyways, onto the video. So the first feature is going to be the ability to give quests. I feel like most every game that has NPCs has them give you quests or missions in some degree. So this just seems like an obvious one that would easily improve the gameplay by giving the player actual tasks to do other than just loot, kill zombies, and try not to die. These quests could range from anything like going to get supplies for this NPC, saving them from a group of zombies, or even going off to find their lost loved one. And in return, you could get loot from them, or they might become more fond of you and they would want to join you. Which takes us into our next feature, the ability to join and or create factions. Another obvious feature that I think needs to be added is for NPCs to be able to join your group, or they can create their own group of survivors. This could add a whole other element to the game where you could go out and recruit more and more people to your group and have them do tasks like going out to loot or even building fortifications and other things to improve your base. Or you could just even run into a group of NPC survivors that have already formed their own faction and you could try and interact with them or avoid them if you think they're too dangerous. Next, for our third feature, we're going to have the ability to build and fortify a base. So if you're a leader of a group, you could order NPCs to collect materials and build a base for you and your group to live in. Or even just random NPCs in the world can build and fortify their own bases, which actually can be seen in the game with survivor houses, but obviously the quote-unquote survivors aren't exactly surviving anymore because there are no NPCs in the game yet. And depending on the size of the survivor group, they could keep building a larger and larger base until they create entire compounds like one seen in The Walking Dead. Examples being Terminus, Hilltop, the Kingdom, and many more. But now on to our fourth feature. We have dialogue/diplomacy of the player. So just being able to have a conversation and communicate with NPCs, like in games such as Fallout and Skyrim. This could allow you to do anything from building a friendship, finding a new trade partner, or even making a new enemy. This then ties into diplomacy, where you could be in charge of a survivor group, and then you run into another large group of survivors who are not exactly friendly, so you could attempt to improve relations or go straight to war. Our fifth feature is pretty much the same as the fourth, except it's NPCs having diplomacy with each other. Just imagine you're walking around and all of a sudden you run into two groups of survivors shooting at each other. This would allow NPCs to form friendships and enemies with other NPCs without you being directly involved. I can see this feature being extremely ambitious, however, and really difficult to add into the game, but it still would be really cool to see. The sixth feature would be for NPCs to have skills similar to what the player has. So an NPC may start off with really bad aim, but could improve it over time, or another could increase their carpentry skill to allow them to build better and better fortifications for their base. This could also allow NPCs to have occupations, so you may run into a doctor NPC that you could ask for help if you're injured, or you could try to invite them to your group. Or you may run into a group of survivors that were all cops and veterans, so they have a bunch of guns and have really good aim, and they could be a vital ally or a deadly enemy. But having NPCs have their own individual skills would add a lot of depth to them, making them feel more like actual humans. Next, the seventh feature is NPCs having backstories and motives. So an example being you run into an NPC and he tells you that he's trying to go home to his family that lives in Louisville, but his car broke down and you could help fix his car or you could drive him there personally. This could act as a quest for the character and also add some more depth to the NPCs, again making them feel more like actual people rather than just random bots roaming the world. But these backstories and motives could lead to an incredible amount of interactions and a ton of replayability to the game, with no single NPC interaction being the same as another. Now for number 8, the ability to create hostile factions or just be hostile in general. These NPCs would basically be like the wolves or saviors from The Walking Dead. They won't listen to diplomacy and all they want to do is either take all your stuff or kill you and all your people. So for all those people who like to be friendly and would become friends with every group they meet, they would be forced into combat due to diplomacy not being an option with these NPCs. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I can just imagine running into a group of crazy cannibals out in the woods and just running for my life while they try to make me their next meal. Personally, for me that sounds like one hell of a time. Now second to last, our ninth feature is NPCs having emotions. So just like the player, they can get sad, stressed, and anxious. And they can basically get any moodle that the player can get. So maybe you have someone who is extremely stressed out in your group of survivors, and while you're trying to stealth through a town, he just starts panicking and starts screaming. Or maybe a member of your group gets depressed and decides to stop living. And before anyone realizes it, they turn into a zombie and begin attacking people inside your camp. If you haven't been able to tell already, a ton of these NPC ideas are heavily inspired by The Walking Dead. Because, well, it's just the perfect zombie apocalypse show, I mean, what else can I say? But now lastly, for the 10th feature that NPCs should have, sex. Yep, you heard me right. Not like in this sense, but more like how Minecraft has it. Just throw a bunch of carrots at them and then bam, baby. No, I'm joking, not like that, but I do think it would be really cool if NPCs could have kids and they could grow up in the apocalypse over the years. I do admit that this would be an odd feature to add, and the vast majority of the community would never get to experience it because most everyone dies in the first 2 weeks of the game. But for those select few players who actually do manage to live years into the game, this would be a really cool thing for them to witness. Not for me though, I am leaning more towards the surviving 2 weeks max side of the community. But yeah, sex. I mean, hey, I paid $40 for y'all Spiffo plushies, so I mean, you kinda have to add it now, right? No? What if I buy a second Spiffo plushie? Then will they add sex? Okay, this is starting to get a little weird. I think it's time to end the video. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below if you want them to add sex to the game. Okay, I need to stop.